taxpayers with any research or experimental R&E costs incurred during tax years beginning on or after January 1st, 2022, those expenses are required to now be capitalized and amortized for tax purposes. So for all the 2022 calendar year tax returns being filed this spring and throughout the remainder of the year, taxpayers that were previously deducting those research or experimental costs in calculating taxable income will no longer be able to do so. Although there is still support and hope for a change to these new requirements, as 2023 progresses, the likelihood may be dwindling. Because a lot of people do not recall anything being passed recently that impacted research deductions. It is just generally on the research credit side where we see it included in many extender packages. Actually, this change to Internal Revenue Code Section 174, the section which discusses the tax treatment for research and experimental costs, was a part of the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Although it was included in the TCJA, it had a delayed effective date, which is now coming into effect. Those in the manufacturing, technology, and a few other industries are being impacted the most, but many taxpayers have Section 174 expenses, even if they do not claim the R&D credit. Some businesses that were previously deducting these costs and generating tax losses may now have taxable income after capitalizing and amortizing these R&E expenses. This may have an impact on their estimated tax payment calculations and may even result in potential underpayment for those who are not in compliance. This has been impacting tax provision calculations, and the new requirement for taxpayers to capitalize R&E costs has even resulted in some businesses who had not historically taken the R&D credit starting to consider the R&D credit as a way to try to offset this impact and derive some benefit from these costs. To start, the R&E costs referenced in Section 174 has a different and a more broad definition than the R&D costs specified in Section 41 for purposes of the R&D credit. The costs under Section 174 include costs specified in Section 41, such as wages, salaries, contractors, supplies, and then goes further to include certain indirect costs, which include, but is not limited to, the cost of obtaining a patent, software development costs, overhead, utilities, rent, and depreciation. For tax years beginning on or after January 1st, 2022, these costs are now required to be capitalized and amortized over a period of 5 years for costs incurred within the U.S. and 15 years for costs incurred outside the U.S. For a taxpayer with only domestic costs, this results in a loss of 90% of the deduction in year one, and that is just on the federal side. Of course, state conformity is mixed and is state by state. Unfortunately, there has been very little guidance provided for implementation as well. Taxpayers should be consulting with their tax advisors regarding the applicability of Section 174 to their business. Anyone whose business activities include the development or improvement of a product, process, technique, formula, invention, or similar property should be cognizant that the R&E related costs will no longer be currently deductible. Again, there is hope that a change could come to repeal or further delay these changes, but these are the new rules until that happens.